So, welcome everybody. My name's Mark Casto. I'm a product success manager with ServiceNow, and we're here today to talk about application portfolio management and how to define that implementation roadmap that lets you find value both early, midterm, long term. Your roadmap is unique to your organization, but there are some suggestions and key concepts that we can share with you that hopefully we can help you. With all these little meetings, we start off with safe harbor. It could be that we'll bring up some subjects for future facilities or enhancements or features of APM that are slated for next year or sometime, but with safe harbor, we can't guarantee it. So we give you the safe harbor statement here. A little bit of housekeeping. Got quite a bit of content to run through. So if you could put your questions in Q&A, and then the last half of the meeting, we intend to have an open forum, answer your questions live. But other members of my group, Molly and Tony, are also on with us, so they'll be answering some of the questions in the background. We're going to record this session, and it'll be available afterwards. And then also afterwards, we may be sending you a little survey to see what you think, and we really do welcome your feedback. It helps us to improve these kind of presentations. A little bit more about me, just a product success manager. I've been with ServiceNow for about 4 years. I've been doing APM for over 20 years. And other tools, enterprise architecture tools, and that sort of thing. So I've seen a lot of customers, helped a lot of customers implement APM. And my passion now is really APM and ServiceNow. It's where it belongs. You got the best possibilities to build a program. Our objective today is that you'll have insights on how to define the roadmap. Even if you've already implemented APM, there's things happening. In fact, there's a whole lot of things happening. And overall, ServiceNow continues to grow and improve. APM is not a product that just sits there by itself and does something. It's tied to dozens of different products in the system. In fact, it's kind of dark matter that helps tie together these concepts. It's deeply embedded in CSDM. So the idea here today, you start where you are, establish your objectives, understand new features or areas that you've not covered, and form that into a roadmap that's achievable for your organization. You've got to gather data, you've got to establish processes, organizational change. So we want to give you some tips and suggestions on that. Talk about our maturity model. So the agenda is rather simple. Just a quick overview and refresher of APM, a quick mention of the features. We don't have time today to go through all of the features, but hopefully you have seen some of these new features. And that may be something that we would run another meetup just to review the features. But there have been quite a few presentations out there. Let us know if you need that. And then second, and really the meat of this meetup is the APM fitness and maturity model. We're going to talk about a prescriptive way. It's not written in stone because, as I said, your roadmap is unique to you and what you're doing. But sometimes you need a suggestion. Where do we start? What do we do in the middle? What's going to be big bang value for us? And so, we look at their fitness model, which is a route through getting value out of all of APM. So start with it. APM is growing. In the past year, the feature set of APM is more than doubled. New features, if you haven't seen it, again, we want to let us know. We'll make sure that we get you to some resources where you can see these things. So there's YouTube videos actually out there where you can see these new features. But enterprise architect workspace, technology reference model, lucid chart integration, export to PowerPoint, digital interface and integration management, cloud assessment are the key ones that we've released just in the last 6 months. So this is a really great time for APM. We're moving forward with a lot of features that have been asked for in the past and making it a much more powerful product. APM itself is still, even with our new features, there's four key areas that we cover and address. There's at the core of it, that list of applications, the enterprise systems that your companies depend upon and drive and support your capabilities. Capabilities, that's the business. That's how we align to businesses. This tooling supports these capabilities. This tooling, these enterprise systems, they're comprised of technologies. So how do you manage technologies, the bill of material of technologies and vendor risk, the support risk, as well as with the new TRM module, you can actually start to govern what technologies are available. It gives you a tool. Probably many of you are already doing this, maybe in spreadsheets or other systems. We now have a system that's integrated into ServiceNow, works with SAMPro, that allows you to manage your software technologies, hardware, and even technology stacks is something that's coming. And then finally, information, governing your information portfolio. What information is being used? How do you quantify that information and qualify that information based on what kind of, is it PII, is it PCI, other regulatory type things? So the feature set, just another way of looking at it and being a little more detailed about it. Under application portfolio, of course, we have the inventory. Now we have things, we also have artifacts associated to these applications. Frankly, artifacts, the application artifacts, that facility is available on just about everything in APM. Business capabilities, integrations, we're using the artifact mechanism quite a bit now. Application rationalization, that's a great way to save money, make the system pay back, and get value out of it, even in a short term. Also midterm and long term, it only gets better as you grow in maturity. Application governance, enterprise workspace, digital integration, cloud assessments that all fall under the application portfolio. Information portfolio, again, it's about the information that is utilized by your business applications. How it's being used as well is captured as a part of it. Business portfolio allows us to align our applications to what your organization does, your capabilities. It also allows us to manage and measure. If you're going to improve something, you've got to measure it. So you can measure those capabilities, understand where you have weaknesses and where you have strengths, identify your strategic capabilities, the ones that you want to enhance and improve, and look at what is the tooling underneath it. Where do we invest? It's a classic strategy for high-level strategic planning of enhancing what your company does best or where you need to do better in order to improve your company's performance. And then technology portfolio, as we mentioned, we have that technology portfolio. What technologies am I using? What are the vendor life cycles? Then also I have a governance model and the technical reference model that allows me to express these are the technologies that you're allowed to use within our organization. And it works with technology portfolio management to identify places where you're using unapproved technology, technical debt. As I mentioned a moment ago, APM doesn't just sit there by itself. It is engaged and connected to so many things within the platform. And each of these avenues exposes big value, improved visibility of what's happening, how your enterprise really works. Integrations, for example, like our Lucid Chart PowerPoint, integration with strategic portfolio management could be project demand is an out of the box. And if you do nothing else, we do recommend you do use demands to express, here's a business case for doing something, an upgrade, a migration, a retirement. That's how we identify and model the roadmap for our business applications. But it's that it doesn't stop there. Our integration with SPM allows APM to become a driver for the intake in your strategic planning. So part of what SPM is now doing, we're moving out of just project management and agile, yes, and safe. Those are still there, but we're up leveling the game to strategic planning. So understanding how the business application inventory aligns to that and vice versa, that's a key bit of visibility that you need. Interaction with ITSM, incident, problem, change, vendor, contract, key elements that's driven by the CSDM elements and connectivity that comes out of APM. Integrations with GRC and IRM, understanding risk, audits, controls associated with your applications. The business applications is one of the key entities that is in a GRC and IRM practice. You identify against these business applications. The integrations that we have help drive the process to make it more efficient. ITOM, one of the key elements that we do, business applications capabilities are very abstract, but via CSDM, we can connect from that abstract level all the way to the floor in the data center. We know what systems are supporting those business applications. We know how they're constructed. Platform capabilities, surveys, assessments, these are all tools that we use to make the whole thing happen. And then finally, one of our biggest integrations is with IT asset management, software asset management, hardware asset management. The pro versions of these give us a avenue to get extreme automation on actually discovering a normalized list of technologies, be it hardware or software, that are used to comprise instances of your business applications. This is a pretty busy diagram. I've heard somebody call it a streetcar map, and it kind of is. But if you follow it from the top here, you can see where at the front end, we're gathering intake. Part of that intake comes out of APM. We formulate everything into demands. We associate that with the strategic roadmap. Continuous planning feeds the development engine, and development can happen in many different ways. It could be agile, you could be running in Jira, you could be using our agile, our safe, you could be using other systems, Rally, Jira, etc. How you do work, we care, but we're adaptable. We can work with you and how you work. What we really want to do is give you that visibility through strategic portfolio management of what work is going on, what's driving that work, where does it come from, and is it aligned to our strategy and our strategic priorities and our goals. We build things, we deploy them in and becomes value chains, value delivery to our customers. We call this digital products. Digital portfolio management represents that digital product being delivered to the customers. So coming out of the work area, we see that we deliver things, we deliver product, service, applications to our customers. Change, release, incident, problem are involved. They also help to improve those services that we're delivering. Risk plays at the development level, but also plays in our operational level. Operations management, again, feeds back into APM. Asset management feeds back into APM, and round we go. This is the big picture of that delivery value stream. Our proponents of CSDM, what they're saying now is we are delivering digital product. Everything can be managed or I guess, imagined as a digital product. So how do you get to maturity? So we have a series of fitness levels. So we used to have crawl, walk, run. CSDM still does crawl, walk, run. This is a new version, and within our strategic planning group, we're using this fitness level. Same thing, just kind of different words for it. So at your basic level, you're developing the application inventory. That's where you start. Nothing happens till you build that application inventory. You bring it under management. It's under management in one place. You know who owns, you have processes for owners of the records, but those owners represent the IT and business owners of the actual applications. So you're bringing it into inventory. You start to align it to IT. So enhancing that information, associating it down into the operations level of things, to explicitly creating those application services and associating to the infrastructure. That gives you that view from the business application concept all the way down to operations, the servers, the cloud servers, the database, et cetera, that make it up. Next, we begin to align to the business. First step in that is to identify and build your business capability model and start doing that alignment. What capabilities do these applications support? And if it's not supporting a capability, it's either one, not a business application. It may be a shared service that through others supports a particular capability, but so it could or may not be, or it is just misaligned. You need to look further, you need to dig deeper. With all of this in place, I believe here at level 1, you can begin rationalization, but you're doing it in a basic manner. At this level, level 4, rationalization is just part of your practice. You are able on demand or on a schedule to go through and evaluate what do we have to do with this inventory, how are we proactively managing it, is what it amounts to. And then finally, integration with technology and business function, that full-blown picture of your application, how it aligns to business, how it aligns to technology, speaking on a architectural enterprise architecture and risk foundation, and then how does it tie into operations, including not just the servers, but also ITSM functions, instant problem and change. So level 1, establish that inventory. That inventory is key to everything. It's the foundation. So that foundation, from there you build it. The key things you want to grab in the beginning are ownership and classification. I don't have it here on the slide, but think about it. If you can give me a category and you can give me the business and IT owners, with the category, it's expressing what the application does. From a technical perspective, right there, I could do the simplest kind of rationalization. If I need to know something about that application, I've got somebody that I can go to. I know the ownership chain. From there, I start to drive my process. Dependencies in this area. Business architecture begins its definition. We start here, starting to define business architecture includes some of those capabilities. We're going to get there at fitness level 3, but we begin here. And here we also, as we begin to define those business applications, we want to start aligning to the application services. It can take a long time to do this. Start early. So, basically the key thing here is get that business application inventory, start to get your capabilities in order. Next is IT focus understanding, level 2, better understanding of your applications. And what we're doing here is we're enhancing, we're picking up more attributes. We're making these applications more expressive. We start to measure the applications with things like assessments. So one of the key facilities of APM is that scoring and indicator framework. At this level, you start to pick up, measure the application inventory using just subjective assessments. Later as we tie into ITOM and incident problem change, we can do objective measurements. And of course, if you're ready now, do it now. It all depends upon where you're at, not just with APM, but also with the rest of your ServiceNow platform. It's a holistic kind of play. You have to have multiple things working together. But here with assessment base, you don't have to have your application services. You could actually start evaluating right away. Other things like data health processes, data certification, start those processes so your organization gets used to participating. APM is a team sport, and that team happens to be just about everybody in IT potentially. So start that alignment, start getting things ready so that we're leading towards that full picture end to end, top to bottom. Level 3, this is about that getting the maturing your ITSM and your infrastructure alignment. And now you start to align to the business, expressing how these applications support your capabilities, what your business does. Start to drive actions and activities via demand. Use the tool to really drive change and keep that visibility. Everything's all in one platform. You can see end to end. Here's our application inventory. Here are the things that we said that we want to do, the business cases expressed as demands. If you have SPM, you can align to strategies and goals. Enhance the measurement of your inventory. Also, now is a good time to start to define your technology standards in TRM. You don't have to have that integrations to SAM. You can start to define that catalog of technology standards. Business capabilities. And also, as part of business capabilities, I want to go back to it. Sorry. Start to score those business capabilities. You started establishing the model, you've got it in place, you're aligning it. Now start managing that capability model, evaluate it under the traditional people process technology view. Level 4, let's get some value back out of all this hard work we've done. Hopefully you're already getting the value you should be. In fact, as you establish your roadmap, always look towards I'm going to do this. Here's the value statement for what I'm going to get back out of it. So each level does give you value, but here's where the power is really happening. You've got a robust and well-managed application inventory. It's aligned at the top level to your business capabilities. It's aligned to your infrastructure. You can start to really make high valued and very detailed analysis to make strategic decisions on how to improve how the company works. Continue to mature those technology standards. Start to get set up for doing TPM and your technology alignment. If you have the facilities, start to measure some extra things such as total cost of ownership. We're working on solutions in this area. There are partners out there that can give you extremely robust TCO solutions. rationalization. Use these tools. We have the four square bubbles chart here that you can use and run a practice similar to Gartner's time model. You can use, if you have SPM, you can use APW to do planning of the work that you're doing. And then finally, level 5, you're integrated at the technology level. So you've got visibility above and below you. And then you also understand the technologies that you're using. You're managing those technologies through TRM. You have a really strong end-to-end continuous process, plan, build, run, return back to plan, build, run. It's that continuum that you see us expressed under CSDM. So this is technology portfolio management. Again, the applications, the services, the technologies used, the vendor life cycles. This, if you haven't seen it, is TRM, or it's one view of it. Here's the products that we declare that are allowed for use and our statements on when particular versions can be used in the formal life cycles. Here's an example roadmap. So this is the kind of thing that we would do in our workshops with you. If you ever engage with ServiceNow customer outcomes, this material is available on Now Create, by the way. And it's just, this is a simplistic roadmap of laying out what features we want to take on and when we're going to do it. Define multiple phases, put dates on these phases, and begin a reasonable journey. You see here we have, it obviously begins with establish the inventory. Start later on towards the end of this phase when we start establishing capability models. That can take some time, so you get started earlier. Understand CSDM starts day 1. Create linkage out here we see is phase 2. This is that application service to business application. And we're dependent upon ITOM operations, service mapping, discovery, et cetera, to help enhance that. Define assessments early and begin to measure that inventory. You can start to get some value back very quickly. And then establish the periodic assessments. Don't just do it once. You start doing it on a 6-month basis or a yearly basis, and make it part of the processes in your organization. As time goes on, you take on more operational metrics. You define your own metrics to meet your needs. Alignment with ITSM and use of demand. Begin to use demand to drive activities. Align once you have your application services, they're service mapped and they're correctly associated. Incident, problem, and change can be rolled up and understood in the context of the business application as part of your measures. Technology, start to establish that technology portfolio. And the idea of this is, and this is just a tool, I'm sorry, you move these around, you establish them and set them to your needs and to the goals that you establish. Here are some examples of KPIs that we use. I don't want to read all of them to you. You can, this presentation will be available after, but some of the things, applications in the same category, applications with differing technology stacks, how many technology stacks are used, or what is the count by tech stack, capability scores, application scoring. These are all viable KPIs that you want to keep and manage for, one, evaluating the inventory and doing strategic decisioning. And then also operationally, you want to manage how well your APM program is going. So you might measure things like number of completed certifications or length of time to complete a certification run. Those sort of KPIs all become valuable. And that is the end of my presentation part of it. What I'd like to do is open the floor for discussion. If you have questions, comments, want to know something, please shout out. Do we have any questions?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Hi, I'm Adrienne and I'm with Common Spirit Health. We are currently implementing SPM, and it's. I guess what I'd like to know is we're just now. I'm the senior project manager, and I'm just now launching APM as well. Okay, so I already have the major demand, PPM, all of that's going on. They're in process workshops right now, and I'm just kicking off APM right now. Okay, I know every client's different, et cetera, but on the average, typically, how long does it take to implement APM properly? Like what I've just seen in your presentation.
Okay. Hi, Adrienne, and
Hi.
that's a wonderful question. I couldn't have asked for a better question. So, first off, it's wonderful. You have APM and SPM, so you're really set up for what I think is a highly valuable tool. Implementing APM, it takes years actually, and it's never ends. It's always ongoing because there's always applications coming and going. So you always have your inventory, but establishing that inventory and getting this rudimentary, kind of going back to these diagrams, and these are just some suggestions, but going back to this, obviously the first thing is you want to get a certain set of that, or ideally, I guess I see two different approaches. You can get your key applications and go very deep on them, try to get all the attributes you can, or what I find is a better practice, get every application that you can. Probably you're not going to pick up everything, but just get us a small subset of attributes and start with that. And then have in a next phase, or maybe halfway through phase one, you've established it, then you do a data call and say, hey, we need these additional attributes from you. When you start, all you need is the IT owner, the business owner, a description, and a category. That gives you enough to get value. It gives you two persons that you can reach out to gather more information, and you can grow that inventory. So that process, that could take, let's say, I've seen it take anywhere from 9 months to 2 years. Depends on the size of your organization. Executive sponsorship is also very important. Really good executive sponsorship, that makes it happen fast. If you don't have, you're going to struggle a little bit and maybe not get as much help. But one of the things that I think is key is the IT owners have to participate. They have to own their records, and don't overwhelm them, but ask them a little bit more as time goes on. They'll get used to it. And as you start to show value with rationalization and other such things, visibility, it gets better. They'll come and they honestly want to participate. As you start to establish some simple measures. So within that first year, you could get to a level 3 is not unreasonable to kind of give you a direct answer.
Level 3. No, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Well, I have a question. This is Todd. Can we get to APM level 1 without service mapping and ITOM?
Yes. So level 1 is you want to be looking towards it. But what I've seen, and I've done this with several customers, we'll create we identify best we can that initial inventory and we import it in. There's actually, at the end of this this presentation, there's a link to another presentation we did end of the year last year. You can use a spreadsheet to upload it. It can be very simple, but you can establish your business application inventory with that, the owners in the category, and maybe just create a nominal application service that doesn't do anything. You work with your platform team for it. It's not service mapped or anything. It's just there's a placeholder. But right then and there, you've got value and you got a placeholder for when service mapping, et cetera, does come in. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Beth, thank you for your question.
Hi, my name is Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Hey, yeah, we've been working with APM for about 2 years now, and it's really interesting because we've gone through and done most of the steps that you talked about in level 1 and level 2, and even getting into level 3, and we're doing some of the rationalization stuff in level 4 and the time scoring and things. But there's also something that I feel like now that we've done all this stuff, how do we connect the dots? How do we, create the planning and strategy portions? How do we run the reports that give us the insights that we're looking to get? And how do we make sure that, we're connected and we're getting the true value out of it now that I've set up that foundational piece? How do I take it to the next level?
Yeah, one of the key things is, to me, is creating the demands. So you've established the inventory. You've got a tool now that you can use. You start doing the rationalization. What is the output of your rationalization is some evidence. And I say use demand. I don't know what else you might have. Could you might have, JIRA and CA for your project portfolio management. Those could be totally off platform, and that's okay. With demand, you can have at least an expression. So one of the KPIs you might start to gather is how many retirements, upgrades, cloud migrations, et cetera, do we have planned for the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever your planning scope is. I find 3 years is rather popular. And so understand, here's our application burn down, our retirement in the next 3 years. Here's our cloud migrations in the next 3 years. So identify the actions, record them at least as a demand, and then start, those become goals. They become activities to work towards, drive to making those things execute, and then circle back around. That's kind of the first level that I see.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You bet.
Hi, this is
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is Chloe. I know we've talked about the connections with other products. We talked about SPM, specifically demand. What we're looking to do is implement the IRM product, and I'm wondering the connection between APM and IRM, maybe through the information portfolio, and what are the benefits of connecting those two products?
I've probably won't have time today, but we can get, work with your account team, or even up on YouTube, there are some videos of that integration. I think it is really cool. So one of the facilities that you get with it, and once you have IRM and APM, your license, if you will, to go to the store and get the two integrations. There's one for risk integration, then policy and compliance. And what it does, the risk integration, you get a workflow, and you'll want to adjust it and configure it to your processes. But essentially, this workflow, when you create a new business application, so somebody comes in, they register a new business application, that workflow kicks in and it identifies the IT owner and the business owner. It starts with the IT owner and it sends them a really comprehensive risk assessment. They fill in that risk assessment. It goes back to the risk manager. And basically there's a queue for the risk manager. Somebody picks it up and they address it. They can assign risks, they can assign policies and controls. It can then be fed back to, and they'll recommend certain data classifications. That gets fed back to the business owner who can then approve it. And so it gives you a foundational workflow for that. Also, one of the things it can do is if you have your information objects identified, it can make recommendations. You have to configure them as a part of your IRM deployment, but you can configure them to look for certain information objects being associated, which will then give you, it used to just automatically assign a risk or a policy to a business application. Now what it does is I think it makes suggestions that you assign it, but you can make it work either way. You can automatically assign risks that have to be addressed. You can assign controls that have to be addressed to that application based off the information that you have. So it's a really, powerful thing, and it actually performs something that people that have built their own APM or done it in other systems, I see them building their own thing to do all of this time and time again.
Thank you for that information. Yeah, it definitely seems very powerful. We'll look into that integration and then the policy and compliance integration as well. Thank you.
You bet. One more thing on that. There is I think it was called Last Thursdays with SPM. There's a recording where they fully demonstrate it. And you should be able to find it up there on community. And if not, reach out to me and I'll find the link and send it to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Other questions?
I have sort of a weird one. We have a well-established APM as well as I am the CMDB and discovery guy. But because there have been many hands over many years touching the APM, there's things like 7-zip in there. Is there anything that you'd coach around, as they say, removing or reclassing items like that, rather than just simply changing the class to software? Or you know where I'm going with that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So end use, and I've done this for a long time. I've always recommended that end user computing doesn't really belong in your APM because you're not going to make strategic decisions on it. It's not entirely true. TRM is a really great place to put 7-zip as maybe it's your preferred, compression encryption tool. So TRM gives you a great place to represent it. As a business application, you're not really going to make strategic decisions, nor are you going to have application services tied to infrastructure with it. That would, first off, it would be thousands of connections and it would give you zero value in every case. So 7-zip's not great as a business application, but it's great to put in as a TRM entry and manage it there. Under asset management, software asset management, if you license it, maybe you decide instead of 7-zip, you go to WinZip. And you do license at a corporate level, but you want to count your entitlements and use of it. So,
well, I mean, that's actively being done. So probably the path is either, does it exist in the asset management, which I'm part of that group. Does it exist already in the correct table? If so, harvest any interesting information, attributes out of the APM entity, and then retire / delete, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I liken it to cleaning out the garage. No matter how good your program has been, stuff creeps in. And So you have to clean up every now and then. And it's just, if you have a process where you're continually, maybe once a year, you have an evaluation of it, and things that seem to have low activity, low value, somebody's not doing their certification on it, that leads you to those things. That's why category is so important, as important as capabilities. And by the way, capabilities, what your company does is completely different from category, which is a technical function of the application. 7-zip is an end user computing tool used for compression and encryption of files. And if you have it categorized, you can find things that are doing that sort of thing. And maybe you say, you know what, we no longer want to support end user computing in our APM. Some companies, their processes simply require it. So it's not going to break anything, but it's just one more thing you have to manage. Every record should deliver value. That's what it gets down to for me.
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, I have a question here. So Della would like to know, are there resources available to support re-implementation or get back to out-of-box APM? Tough question, and I wasn't sure how to answer that.
So in my former days in customer outcomes, we had offerings where we could help you. And that is, if you choose, we'd love to see you work with our customer outcomes. They literally have a program where they'll go in, assess what you do, help you identify what needs to be removed. But I can tell you about the steps for it is, one, like the discussion we just had, formalize and formalize what is a business application. So this is, go back to CSDM and say, this is a business application. These other things are not. So if we find, and then review the inventory, remove the things that are not. When it comes to attributes, review your attributes and review your custom attributes and determine, is there really a process by which somebody owns this and they're providing consistent, truthful information for it, and we have a process or processes that consume it and get value out of it. If you don't have both of those things, get rid of it, because nobody's using it, or you're using it inconsistently, that's almost worse, because you can't make a inventory level decision. So evaluate your attributes on people, process, and value, and get rid of the ones that you can. And then, essentially what I've seen people do is you just go in and you mark those as don't use. You remove them from the forms, and then as time goes on, you can archive that data if you think you might need it at some point in time, or then you remove it. So it's identification, marking, tagging, if you will, and then removal is kind of the general set of steps. And what we did in customer outcomes, we did that analysis and planning, and then we would have a series of phases where we do it or help you to get started to doing it step at a time.
Got it. Really, really appreciate that. It's really refreshing to know that we're on the right track with getting back to out of the box.
Yeah, it is. And you can get incredible value out of the box, but I've been doing APM for a long time. We don't have every attribute that you might need, that your company needs, because of the way you see the world, or because of the industry that you're in, or your particular situation. Adding a few attributes is great. Adding flows to help drive your process is fantastic. Use assessments instead of creating attributes. That's another trick that I love. I had somebody that was doing PII, and they've got the PII expressed in their information objects, but hooking them up and knowing and certifying it was kind of hard, awkward. They knew it was inaccurate. Created an assessment with all the PII elements, and each IT owner once a year goes in because this company was under GDPR and they had strict regulation. They had an assessment, and they had to say, "Do you use Social Security number?" Yes, I do. Where do you use it? Is it customer? Is it employee spouse, applicant, etc.? They had 5 different personas that you might have gathered that information for. And you had to say, yes, I use it. Here's how I use it. And did it with an assessment. There were hundreds of attributes in that assessment, but you translated into just a single indicator that says, yes, I have PII. It's a great way to go about it. That's just an example. Anything else? So while everybody's thinking a little bit, I want to just a little bit of an advertisement for our group. The SPM group at ServiceNow, we need your help. We need customers that like what we're doing, and we don't claim to be perfect. We need your feedback to be better. And so one of the ways that we can do that is our SPM Evangelist Customer Advocacy Program. If you're interested, here's some information. Like I say, this deck will be provided for everybody after the meeting, as well as the recording. And if you're interested, join us, help us make this thing better. It's a community, and our desire is to make this serve you so you get the most value. And one last thing, at the end, you'll find a lot of reference material. We have a toolkit that I referenced. So that one, it's up on the community. Look for Start Your APM Journey Toolkit on the community. And we've got a variety of resources for those that are just beginning in their APM journey. Other questions, comments? We got another 7 minutes.
I don't have any here in Q&A. Thank you very much, Mark. Great job. Oh,
All right.
here we go.
And I'm going to pause the share so I can look at Q&A.
It would be nice to implement a discovery process for APM.
So, Brad, I would be interested. So, you describe this. It says, Brad's question is, it'd be nice to implement a discovery process for APM. Maintenance of APM is our bottleneck. And I'm curious how that would, how you think that might manifest. If you could elaborate, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure, I can try. So I've worked in a few organizations, and the manual maintenance of APM data is, extremely difficult, to say the least, and also to develop a APM from the beginning is very difficult. So the idea here is, in the discovery, we can discovery applications, right, within our discovery process. If there was a way to do discovery at an APM level to try to utilize that same technique in the platform, that would make things a lot easier and allow people to get started quicker. Does that make sense?
It does. The problem is that information we're gathering in APM is Not likely. So you can discover applications. So that's software installed on a server, but you don't know that that application is part of the bigger enterprise system. So in APM, we're tracking enterprise systems that are comprised of many applications working together. So we find Tomcat and we find MySQL and we find Apache, and those are all applications singular, but they're not business applications, but you hook them all together and it makes a business application. So the problem is, unless you have the metadata as a part of discovery, that's really what service mapping is about. I could see a program where you did discovery, then you started doing service mapping before you ever started APM. Then the application services, those stacks that you find as a part of evaluating kind of from the bottom up, those become, those are instances of business applications. So you could, in theory, kind of discover your way up. And if you don't, if you have an application service, it's a stack of things working together. What is this thing called? What's the name of it? Well, somebody's got to know. That's kind of the point of APM, is to do that, but at least it gives you something that you have a task or a record for, that you can go track it down.
Yeah, no, I totally follow that. I'm just saying it's a starting point, because sometimes organizations have a hard time even understanding what are the applications that are deployed, right? And I totally get what you're saying, that at times multiple WAR files, multiple jar files make up an application, but it's a starting point. And so that's all I was asking for. And like, we can be intelligent about what it would put in APM as well. So we're not going to put Oracle in APM because it's not a business application. So, it would be a platform.
But it's used by a business application. So that's, you're asking for something that might give you, it's an indicator that there's a business app out there. Who's using this Oracle? Oh, that leads you to something.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we wouldn't still have some maintenance to take care of and to have to manually update some of that data. I'm just saying it could be a starting point, and it also could be a verification check. So, if I ran discovery, can I run discovery and then take the results and push and measure it against APM to say, hey, you've missed an entire inventory system here. You've missed an entire policy processing system. You've missed our CRM system. So it's just a concept that I wanted to just throw out there to see if there's anything in the roadmap to try to help with this manual maintenance.
I think you've got kind of a cool idea. Haven't thought of it that way. I've always kind of thought top down from it, or at least meet in the middle, but this is sort of a bottom up approach.
Yeah. And I know
there's a new version of TPM coming out, and there might be something to that, that when it does come out in May, safe harbor, blah, blah, blah. But when it does come out, that might be something that is of interest. You could create, and the product manager I'm working with mentioned this. He said, what if we create a generic application and a generic application service? And we basically go after everything. Can we use that? And then we can start to divvy it up, these interconnected stacks. That's the key thing, is you have to identify, here's Oracle, who's it connected to? Who's using it? Okay, that's a stack. So that belongs to an application service. So that's what you've got to drive towards, is getting to those app services. From there, the next leap is the business app.
Yeah, and with software asset management, platforms are getting a lot more intelligent about vendor software, right? And a lot of companies, as we move to vendor softwares and less in-house written stuff, like a lot of that stuff is already documented, so we could pull directly from, a software asset management repository to populate some of this stuff. So just an idea.
Sounds great. I'll talk to Gerard, who is our product manager. See
All right.
what he thinks. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you all, and have a great day and happy APM.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mark.